Yeah.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we're so grateful for the opportunity we have to be here as representatives in the community of Cardston. We're so thankful for the opportunity we have to represent the good people and to make decisions which will benefit the community as a whole. And thank thee again for the safety which thou hast provided through our community, and for the that we would be able to overcome this the storm and tragedy that's befalled Cardston, and that the silver lining will come out and that will put trades to work and people to work and bring money and into our community and to make us a better community. We thank thee again for the opportunity we have to do the things which will benefit the community. Help us to make good decisions and say these things in thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Our 4:05 p.m. delegation needs to be rescheduled, so we're going to delete that delegation from the agenda. I see nothing further. I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda with that one deletion. Councillor Creed moves to adopt the agenda with that one deletion. All in favor? Carries. Thank you very much. So we'll move right into adoption of the minutes, and I'll entertain a motion to adopt the minutes.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Councillor Cronin moves adoption of the minutes. There was an item that I needed to change, I think. Councillor Cronin, you had a comment?
Yeah, I also have different points regarding the minutes. Maybe go ahead with your point.
Just word usage, where it says Sergeant Beeler presented the second quarter RCMP report to council. That would be from contributed to attributed. Okay. Sergeant Beeler mentioned the property offense numbers are up, and this is attributed to the warmer weather. That's a fair change of word usage there. Councillor Cronin?
Okay, when you look at the 4:30 p.m. Gerald Levitt Sunday Sports comments or report here, what I noticed that the paragraphs that express his opinion and the decision that was made of remove Mr. Levitt from council don't really shed very much light as why this was done. So maybe there has to be a qualifier why Mr. Stewart was removed from chambers, as maybe disrespectful conduct or whatever use.
Time.
You think?
It was just time, I think.
Or
Actually, it was more than that.
But I think the paragraph above does not explain the action that is recorded here. And I think for the public who reads those minutes, they should understand what happened.
Do you have some words that you'd like to put in there, Councillor Cronin?
Well, I just thought if it was disrespectful conduct, so be it. If it was a timing issue, so be it.
Marion, procedurally, how do we make additions or deletions of this nature?
Just as part of the discussion, we'll make notes and then the motion would be to require
As amended?
As amended.
As
Yeah.
amended. Okay.
I have another point, if you may.
Okay, so do you want to put forth the wording that you'd like to be added there?
Yeah, we could use if it is agreeable with you and reflect that just to add for disrespectful conduct.
Okay, then you have another comment as well.
Yeah, the other comment is regarding the bylaw 1614. And I really felt because the motion was recorded as to the vote, that all the comments that were made more or less should be there. For example, Councillor Court voted against the recreation facilities rescinding of the motion because he felt there was a lack of fairness between golf course open as a Sunday activity and other activity not being allowed. So that was his reasoning. My reasoning was different. My reasoning was principle of governance. And because I voted the way I did, I think it would be fair for public who read those minutes to understand the gist of it all.
The problem we face, Councillor, is are we going to get into this exercise of every one of us
No.
explaining the point of our vote?
No, I really think that when a vote is recorded, that on an issue as such, that creates so much emotion in town.
But my question remains, are we going to go in and have each councillor's rationale put into that vote that's tabulated? My point would be this. On a recorded vote, the person that's reading gets the privilege by the recorded vote to contact the person. Could you share with me why you voted the way you did?
Okay, I can accept that.
And I think that that's probably a more reasonable approach.
Okay.
I mean, I get your point. I get your point.
On that issue, I thought it was an important one. I'm not picky
No,
regarding
but-
minutes.
Okay.
But on that issue, I thought the public has a right to read
They
it.
do. They absolutely they do. But I still feel that part of the reason for the recorded vote is the folks out there, maybe the ones that are watching sort of already know, but maybe they don't know. The folks that read this, that's why it's recorded, so they can go and say, why did you
Okay.
vote the way you did?
Fair enough.
Okay. Right.
I just, to add to Councillor Cronin, though, I think part of her reasoning, though, is that we have identified what a number of other councillors had stated at that time, and perhaps it is fair to include the other two councillors who had comments, but they weren't necessarily recorded
That's
in this case, because...
pretty well where I was
Yeah.
coming from.
The chair prefers, unless I'm deemed out of order, the chair prefers that with the benefit of the recorded vote, any who wish to pursue further information have the liberty and the opportunity to contact that person and say, can you just explain to me, share with me your thoughts on why you voted this way or that way. That's the chair's preference. That's one of the benefits of having the recorded vote. Okay. Now, also, Councillor Creed is partly right. There was an issue of time allocation on the topic with Mr. Levitt, because I clearly recall directing him to get to his point, and he didn't seem to be getting to his point. And I guess it's his privilege, if he chooses, to occupy his time to an extent. However, since that meeting, I just felt like, delegation aside, it's not an opportunity to come and rant against council with a whole variety of concerns. It was on one topic, and to the best of my recollection, he just never really got there. So,
But if you don't mind me saying something, in margin it says 4:30 p.m. Gerald Levitt. That was the time that he was scheduled for. Is that what is recorded there? Because then you say removed at 4:28, so that doesn't fit either.
That was the scheduled time.
So it's the scheduled time. That's what I wanted. Thank you.
I honestly think that in this situation, the less said the better. People wanting further information have the right to contact the people based on how they voted and ask for further information. That's the beauty of the democratic process. I will call the question, and we'll vote on the motion with some words added by Councillor Cronin. Any further discussion on that?
So could we just clarify the exact words that we will add to that?
was just disrespectful
Just so that I know what you're voting on.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Just disrespectful conduct.
For
And that's a fair
disrespectful
question, that's a
Okay,
fair
sure.
question.
Okay.
Which
Yep.
the mayor has the right to
Yeah, if
have
that's
someone
acceptable.
removed.
Okay, so I will call that question then. All in favor of the addition in the minutes? That carries, thank you.
Just a clarification, so reason was disrespectful
Conduct.
rather than the timing?
Yeah, disrespectful conduct, yeah.
And you don't want the other comments?
No.
Councillor comment.
Well,
Okay, so now we're on to 6A, the land sale item in the agenda. We have the bylaw dealing with development, and specifically, we have some reference to land sale of commercial and industrial lots. There is a wording that's going to be changed there. Under commercial and industrial lots, number 1, the word complication will be changed to completion, okay? The land, nor may the land be resold prior to the completion of the development. That's just a word change.
I have a comment on item 3 under residential, and the comment is this, that the town can waive the 2-year requirement if they want, and I wonder if that should be added.
Well, okay. I think for the sake of our discussion today, our discussion today is surrounding the request by Mr. Schaefer to purchase some land that I think at the present time he wants to use it for storage. There was some discussion surrounding, do we want to impose a time for construction and completion as there is in the residential lot side of things? And item 3, under commercial, talks about the purchaser must commence construction and complete construction according to a timeline that is approved by the town council. In approaching this discussion, I think we need to decide as a council how we want to deal with our local business people. If we want to be perceived as business friendly, in my mind, we need to be business friendly, okay? For a couple of reasons. We want to be seen as encouraging and promoting business from anywhere, but current folks who reside here, who work here, who pay taxes here, who own property here, deserve a little bit of encouragement as they grow and as they progress. So we need to decide a little bit whether we want some of this rewritten. We need to decide some of our approach to this. Mr. Schaefer wants to purchase a piece of land. Currently, he just wants it.
Supposed to be in camera maybe, or?
No, nothing was in camera when he, oh, it was in camera when it came?
This is simply to review the land sale policy,
Okay.
and whether it's appropriate.
So we have to decide whether or not we want to have some strict guidelines for development of commercial/industrial land. So I guess I really want to find out where council is at with this, and we need to make some decisions on this. Councillor Cronin.
I reread that section and I'm well aware of the situation. What I'm trying to understand is the usage should be defined regarding industrial lots. Because does industrial lots mean you have to have a business that is conducted inside a structure? Or does an industrial lot mean that if your business requires space for storing your equipment with which you conduct business in town, is that considered an industrial lot? What is the definition of the industrial lot? What is the definition of raw land? What is it?
Well,
What's the
raw.
usage? And under which zoning are they? Or under which zoning is raw land? Under which zoning? Industrial lot, I would imagine, is under light industrial or something like that. But raw land, which is part of the same policy, under which zone is it?
I think it would depend on which area of the community is it in. If it's in the industrial area, it's an industrial lot. If it's in the residential area, it's a residential lot.
Okay, so that would be your definition? Is that the way we look at it in the planning?
Yeah, raw land would be defined as land that is not readily developable, so doesn't have services readily available to it. So it could, as Councillor Dow said, could be within a number of different zonings within the town.
All right, so if you have a piece of land that somebody wants to purchase but does not have those amenities clearly around that lot, then is he forced to develop within a certain time or not?
I think we need to get rid of raw land.
If I might just explain the current policy as it sits, if that's okay.
Sure.
So under residential lots, and this was the new draft that was approved in March of 2010. So we divided land into 3 categories. First was residential lots. Under residential lots, there is a requirement in point 3 that the purchaser must commence construction within 1 year of the date of the purchase and must complete construction within 2 years.
Right.
Okay? Commercial industrial lots, commercial/industrial lots, would be lots that are non-serviced or partially serviced lots, but where services are close or available for servicing. Under point 3 in that category, it says the purchaser must commence construction and complete construction according to a timeline that is approved by town council. The intent of council at that time was to allow some flexibility as to proposals that would come forward for commercial property. Depending on the nature of the proposal, a 1 year or 2 year time frame may not be deemed appropriate by council at the time. Okay? The third was for raw land, and raw land, as I defined earlier, would be a large parcel of land that does not have services readily available. Under Part 3 of that, it says all agreements for sale of non-serviced land in that area must be accompanied by a development agreement, which would define in the development agreement the use of that land. Okay?
Okay, but the development agreement does not mean that it has to be a...
No, there is no stipulation under raw land or commercial and industrial as to what we call the 1224 clause.
Right.
Strictly for residential is how the policy was drafted and approved by council in 2010.
Can you
So-
have raw land in the confines of the town of Cardston?
Potentially, yes. Yes. There is some, for instance, if you took the land that would be directly north of the Agrodome, for instance, large area, no services readily available.
But isn't that being used by the Agrodome?
It is right now, but it may not be in the future.
So define services, like what's that?
Services would be sewer and water.
There's no sewer and water by that? Industrial
In
area.
part areas, in some areas there is, but there's other larger parcels where it's not, yes.
So that would be what would allow us to say, on this piece of land, on that parcel, we will fit under commercial and industrial lot requirements or under raw land requirement. So that's a divide between the two.
The other thing to remember with raw land is if we're looking at commercial and industrial lots or residential lots, that means they're currently zoned that way. So the intent is that that's where you would develop commercial or industrial or residential properties. Under raw land, it may currently be zoned agricultural. So it's being used for agricultural purposes, but you may have someone come in who wants to either develop a residential subdivision, a new subdivision, a new commercial or industrial subdivision. So it's dependent on the proposal and what our long-term plans are for those properties. But right now, a lot of those raw land parcels would be deemed agricultural and currently zoned that way.
Okay, so if we go back in time a little bit, when we made a decision regarding a parcel that was on the east side for business, that was a parcel that did not have service available.
Yes, it did have services available. It's currently considered because the services are in the street in front of that parcel.
Then in that case, did we err when we...
No, because it fit under the commercial and industrial lots.
But
And
there's
there's
no
no
structure being...
But there's no requirement. Council did not deem a requirement necessary on that property, and that's what Clause 3 allows council to determine. You would determine the completion of construction according to the terms that you agree to. So if you say there doesn't need to be construction at this time, we're still willing to sell it, then you can go ahead and sell it.
So the development agreement, that's supposed to go with the purchase of that parcel, lot, land, what is that?
If there was other stipulations that council wanted, if you wanted to say, yes, you have to build within 1 year, we could put that in there. If you said you have to fence a property, you have to pay for your sewer and water connections, you have to...
Grading or
Pardon?
water management or grading.
Yeah, maybe you have to do something with the engineering or water
So
management
when
or
you say
something.
development agreement must be accompanied, that doesn't mean a development of a building?
No, a
structure?
development agreement is simply an agreement between the town and the party that can be registered by way of caveat, that can deal with all manner of development issues, not necessarily construction of a building. Okay?
Could I suggest then that there is an explanation or a definition of development agreement, maybe as a bracket or something that will clarify the matter so that we know that does not mean that a structure needs to be established on a parcel? Could it be possible?
We could add a definition of a development
Because I
agreement.
think that would clarify the issue.
Councillor Dow?
In our document, we can't cover every anticipated possibility, and I think we have to be relatively broad in what we're doing so we don't hinder the development of property in our town.
And there is another thing that comes
I
into
agree.
play here. The other thing that comes into play is the current economic and business climate. If folks are clamoring for land, there might be some interest in, and I think Councillor Smith addressed this, there might be some interest in, rather than let people buy land and then just sit on it, hoping the price goes up and up and up. So I think we need to keep in mind the economic and business climate, primarily in terms of supply and demand of land, which really, there's not lots of folks clamoring for land of any description right now in the area. Councillor Creed.
I think section 1 in there actually addresses that, where it says the sale agreement is non-transferable, nor may the land be resold prior to the completion of the development. So I think it puts a restriction on just holding the land to resell it. I believe that
But it's what the development
covers that.
means.
Well, my personal opinion is that we don't sell land just to sell land, that we either buy and build or lease the land. I'd hate to see town property all over the place with storage equipment all over it there. It just look trashy. Some guys may take care of it, but as we drive around, we can see that a lot of guys don't take care of their, that piece of property. And it's just, you're just creating a mess, because once they own the land, I mean, they pretty much do what they want. We got a bylaw guy, but
Now, this inquiry and request to sell a parcel of land was tabled, if I'm correct. So it probably is here for us to make a decision. So we ought to really determine what kinds of changes, if we want to make some changes. We should probably make a decision whether or not we're prepared to have a motion on selling the land. We're not ready to do that yet.
Well, the purpose of this being on the agenda tonight was, by direction of council, you as council wanted to review the current land sale policy prior to making a decision on any other sales of commercial or industrial property.
Okay, so Councillor Creed.
Well, I feel that the policy as it stands, if we understand the policy, I believe it is a fair policy, because we can ask the developer what their plans are, and as you commented earlier, we need to encourage development. We don't want to put roadblocks in front of people who want to develop. I'm not offended, by machinery. I mean, being on land, if we could have, but we can always stipulate fencing, we can stipulate whatever we want to stipulate. And I think we should, with this policy as it is, it allows us to work with the developer and say, what are your plans, and this is what we would like to see, and come up with something that we're all happy with. So I feel that this policy actually, if we understand it, it does address everything.
And that's an excellent point, because as we sit and debate this issue and the specifics of it, that helps us understand better. Councillor Dell.
We do not want to be a hindrance to people who want to do something in our town. I think if they perceive a hindrance, they'll go someplace else.
yeah, but you're not getting the point. The point is, we're not trying to be a hindrance. We're trying to make sure that our town stays clean, so that the land's used for something. So we're not just, like I say, selling storage space off to everybody. So when people drive into town, they see storage everywhere. I mean, you don't have buildings. Why can't they lease the land and put the same stuff on the property?
One of the problems we have, one of the problems we have here is, and we actually have seen it, folks not having a place to store and hopefully eventually build a storage facility, have a tendency to put lots of the land on their residential property. And we've had some folks with their construction equipment on the boulevard or in a cul-de-sac and things like that. So we need to give administration some direction, and what I'm hearing primarily is we want to try, within reasonable constraints, we want to encourage business. We want to be a business-friendly community, a business-friendly council. And so, having said that, what kinds of changes do you feel, council, that we want to make, if any, to this? And as has been mentioned earlier, helping us understand the content and the intent of the various clauses under, particularly, I think at this point, commercial and residential, lets us understand how we might deal with the individual who has requested to purchase some land.
Well, like I say, it's as simple as, you can take this whole thing and put it down into, if you want any town property at all, whatever it is, raw land, yada, 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 commercial, whatever, just, if you want to buy the land, you build something on it. If you're not going to build anything, then you can lease the land. It's quite simple, actually. Or it could be simple.
What kind of a term would you put on a lease?
Whatever. until the land goes up for sale or until someone wants to buy it in 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Whatever.
I can't see putting a 10-year term on a lease or a 5-year
Well,
term.
I'm not saying, you can put a year lease, you can put a year or 2 years.
Yeah, but if you put a year lease, you're gonna have to put a 1-year lease with a renewal clause attached to it.
Well, whatever, so be it.
Marion?
What would we do in a circumstance where perhaps in order to do what they need to do on the land, there would be some major improvements to the land itself that's required? What would we do in that case if it was simply a lease, right? It may not be a structure,
Well,
but
if
it's...
it's improving the land, then what's wrong with that? That's okay.
Well, but would we do it or would the lease holder?
Well, I mean, if they want to do it, then, well, I mean, I don't know, whatever, I mean, it's just, like, what kind of things are you talking about? Like,
Well,
what
I'm
would they
just,
do?
well, for instance,
Grading,
if you had to build a road, bring a lot of gravel into it, you know, maybe right now it's not in a situation that's accessible for the type of equipment that needed to be stored there. Perhaps you needed to put gravel on the lot so that you had good drainage and that kind of stuff to keep things, you know, you're not driving in and out of mud all the time. There's a number of things like that. What if they want to fence it? What if they need security around it? Those types of things that, you know, it would be quite costly for someone if they were just leasing the land.
Well-
Yet if they owned it, then it's an investment into their own property.
Well, the more they put into the land, the more they'll be inclined to build something on it to keep the property.
But they're certainly not going to put much outlay of cash into a piece that they're leasing. I really think that clause number 2 in the commercial and industrial description allows the kind of flexibility that we need. Council of the day, this council or in the future, can enter into such agreement as the time and the condition and the situation demands. Again, if land is in short supply, if it's a hot item, as residential lots were in 05, 06, if I recall, then, you know, a 1224 residential restriction was applicable. However, I still think that the needed flexibility is stated under item 2 under commercial and industrial. It allows the parties to enter into an agreement which meets the needs and the conditions of the day.
Would it be okay to define the development agreement, since this is the issue that allowed us not to understand each other?
And that is actually a good comment. So with that direction for administration, do you want to take and add some definition to the term development agreement?
We can do that if
And
it
is there-
helps clarify the policy.
Well, I think that is really, development in my mind was building. And
See-
development agreement from your perspective was totally different. Could include, but not exclusively.
Now, Councillor Smith's concern notwithstanding, I'm not seeing much support for sort of being very, very strict and very, very narrow in encouraging people to lease unless they're prepared to build. I'm just not seeing any other support around the council table for that.
There is one point that Councillor Smith is making that perhaps can be addressed some other way, is really addressing the notion of aesthetic appeal in our town. What keeps our town aesthetic when you come to it? And is that possible to address that in some ways?
But I think in all
I don't know.
In all honesty, Councillor, we have guidelines in our bylaw in terms of unsightly premises. We have those. Okay, we have those in place now. So any other comments council would like to make and directing administration in this regard? So we want some definition as to what is encompassed in the term development agreement. Number 3 talks about the opportunity that council may choose to put some timelines, some time constraints around a development agreement. So we know where we're going in terms of time. It's very, very flexible, as outlined by number 3. Councillor Dell.
I think we should direct our administration to talk with the proposed purchaser of this particular land and find out what the intentions are and what they intend to use the land for, and are they going to build something on it within a reasonable period of time.
Well, this is kind of like discussing the Fortis deal type of thing there. If you keep the asset's going to appreciate over time. They're talking about if you sell the asset and keep the cash over time, the money's going to be worth, the inflation's going to eat away at the money and it'll be worth less. And this is what we're talking about here. I mean, we say it's more important to keep the asset, but yet we want to keep giving our assets away and stuff like that. And I mean, what's, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000? I mean,
We can't hinder development.
I have no problem selling town land. I mean, what are we going to get on it from property tax? $300 a year? What do we get from leasing it? A couple $1,000 a year? I mean, we're just. He can do the same thing on the leased land as he can,
I'm not hearing any support for the position that we sort of put tight guidelines, insisting on development. I'm hearing that we want to just specify and clarify the terms and conditions of what would be considered a development agreement, and sort of deal with each case on its own merits to some extent. I'm not sure that council wants to do a sort of a specific cookie cutter approach, that we want to have some broader, more flexible guidelines. And again, a lot of it depends on the situation of the day. Is our property in short, is our land base in short supply? Is there high demand? Are prices going up, through the roof kind of thing, like they were with homes about 6 or 7 years ago? So I think from what I'm hearing, we'll just give administration the direction, add a little clarification under what is intended by the statement development agreement, and move there and maybe come back in a month's time. And then if in the meantime we get some more pressure from the gentleman who wants to buy a specific piece of property, then maybe we can deal with him. But it's in the interest of that person and any others who want to buy and build and develop, hopefully, that we deal with this as soon as possible, so that he's got a place to store, and hopefully sooner or later we'll build a building to house his equipment and such. Anything else council would like to direct administration?
I have, but I won't.
Okay, so that I think deals with the land sale. We have bylaw 1615, and it is a graffiti bylaw which talked about, and this was a concern to council, whether or not we would penalize and enforce penalties on a landowner, a property owner, who was a victim of graffiti if they did not clean the graffiti off the property. There is a proposal to deal with that situation in a different fashion, and the proposal would take the onus on a graffiti situation and take it out of the graffiti bylaw and put it under the unsightly premises bylaw. So are we prepared to have our bylaw officer speak to that? Is that where we're at with that? No?
Not on this, no.
Not on this one? Okay.
Do you need a motion to accept the changes?
What would be required is if you're agreeable, then third reading, a motion for third reading, which would pass the bylaw.
It's just been amended.
Yeah, the only thing that's been amended though is the penalty to the property owners for non-removal.
Right, and I think that's fair.
Okay, and I just need to go and find it. Okay, so we're looking for third reading, being the first two readings passed on the 17th of July. So
I'll move third.
moving third reading with, just to clarify, with the removal of penalties for failure to remove the graffiti. Is that what third reading is intended to do then?
Third reading would pass the
bylaw
bylaw as it stands
as
tonight.
it's written.
As is written with the changes
Yeah,
already done.
yeah, with the amendments, yeah.
Okay, so I'll accept a motion for third reading then.
It was made by.
Made by Councillor Cronin?
No, Councillor
Smith.
Smith.
Sure.
Councillor Smith?
No, makes no difference.
Okay, so all in favor of third reading of bylaw 1615? Carries, thank you. So then we move into the sufficiency of the petition. You'll note in the agenda package that our administration deems the petition is sufficient. However, it becomes of little relevance given the fact that the direction of the petition was no longer needed as the concern of the petition failed on third reading. So that's sort of where that lands. Motion 1265, dealing with the use of baseball diamonds. We need to rescind that bylaw because there remains reference in that bylaw to Sunday use.
Rescind the motion, not the
Not
bylaw.
bylaw.
Sorry, wrong word, rescind the motion. So we're going to need a,
I don't know who made it.
a motion to rescind motion 1265.
Yeah.
And Councillor Creed so moves. And what we're doing here is that the motion will take out any reference to Sunday use, which has been deemed not applicable anymore.
So further motion is required for the rates.
So all in favor of rescinding motion 1265, wherein reference occurs to Sunday use? All in favor?
Tim doesn't have to be here for that.
Councillor Dahl, you're voting?
Okay, so that motion 1265 is rescinded. Now we're going to need another motion to bring back the amended cost structure for renting of the facilities.
So move.
Councillor Smith moves that we bring back. Now, do we have a number for that?
It'll be a new motion number tonight.
It'll be a new motion which we'll give tonight, but
So-
that motion will bring back into force the cost that we decided for renting softball diamonds, baseball diamonds. I think we
Do you
also...
want me to just read the motion so you understand what you're voting for?
Please, that would help.
Okay, to charge $50 per field per day for the use of diamonds for baseball tournaments. Payment must be made 48 hours prior to commencement of the tournament. A deposit of $200 be required at time of booking that will be refunded upon a condition report being filled out after use is completed. The fee would exclude men's, ladies' league, and little league's year-end tournament.
That's fair enough.
Now, are we currently charging a deposit for rental of our facilities? Okay, so this does
the motion.
This does nothing to that.
Really, this motion.
Okay.
If you, can I, Marianne, it's just bylaw 1441 on the second line, there's a little typo there. The word should be services, community services rather than serves.
Yeah.
Okay, so the number that we're voting, you're going to assign it a new number then? The motion?
Yes.
Total
So the
number?
motion that I just read is the motion that
It's
Councillor
very
Smith just made.
Similar to the other motion, just taking out the reference to Sunday.
Yes,
use.
exactly, Councillor.
Any further discussion? I'll call a question. All in favor? Carried. For a few years now, it's been the interest of myself and I think other councillors to acquaint ourselves and to have some interaction with the chief and council on the reservation. And in a recent conversation with one of the administrative assistants to the chief, it was suggested that we try to have a luncheon, which we would host, likely at a local restaurant where there's a bit of a banquet facility there, and that luncheon could be held at the suggestion of this gentleman who is an administrative aide to the chief, that they typically hold their meetings the entire week, the first week of the month, but that he thought there might be a way to squeeze in a luncheon that we would host on Wednesday the 5th. And so if council is amenable and available for that, we would have our council and senior administration and invite them to this hosted function here in Cardston, their chief, council, and senior administration. Is Wednesday the 5th the day that works for?
September 5th?
Yeah.
September, yeah.
That's what I thought.
We've got committee of the whole the day before that. So if that's okay with everybody here, then we will endeavor to contact the tribal administration and council to have a luncheon on that day, which would be at noon on Wednesday, the 5th of September. So it looks like it's a good day. Of course, we don't have Councillor Court here, but he's no longer employed, so he shouldn't have any conflict. Okay.
Mayor Scow.
Yes.
I just want to comment. In that same vein, I appreciated us inviting the Blood Tribe Council to share our float with us. I think that was very positive.
There were, by my count,
There was three.
Three,
There
yeah.
were three that joined with us.
And one of them stayed for the luncheon, which was nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you for that. And hopefully that's something that we can have some success with moving forward. Now, 6F, and this, I guess, needed to be in the July meeting agenda.
Yeah, if I might, Mr. Mayor, sorry, I apologize. The tax sale was scheduled for yesterday, and it inadvertently got left out of the July meeting to notify council that the tax sale had been canceled due to payment of those taxes. All other notices were done as per the act, but we just failed to notify council, so it's just for your information.
Okay, so we'll go down into 7, request for decision, and you'll note some letters expressing concerns with unruly animals in a certain part of town. And so I think our bylaw officer is here to speak to some changes into our bylaws for dog control. And so I guess, Lloyd, you're prepared to speak to that. And we're looking for first reading if possible after Lloyd explains the concern. Do you want to give us some background in your proposal, Lloyd, please?
Lloyd, will you click that microphone on? Just hit the button on top, please.
I've had several complaints from people on 4th Avenue East about the, not just the number of dogs, but the way the dogs are handled by the owners. And I've actually been in several of the homes, particularly this past week, inquiring about a death of a dog that was killed up there by another dog. And I'm afraid after a conversation I just had with one of the residents up there, we may see some conflict between the residents now because of what's going on up there. There are some people that live in that area that refuse to keep their dogs contained on their property. They've been warned, they've been told several times. The biggest problem for my part of the job is the fact that whenever I go in that area, whether I'm in uniform or in my street clothes, in my personal truck or my town truck, a couple of those particular dogs that are the main problem run immediately back onto their property, onto their porch. And as the bylaw stands, I have to go and knock on the door and ask permission to go on their land to retrieve a dog. Now, I don't know anybody that's a dog owner or a dog lover that's going to say, yeah, please take my dog away and give me a $50 fine for having the dog run at large. So that's why I've looked at I've actually talked with other peace officers and animal control officers in the southern Alberta area, and as you see in that one, I think it's in section B of that.
Yeah,
Section
sorry if I'm right,
11B.
Mr. Mayor, it's written now as 11A, B, C. So yeah, B and C
Okay.
are the additions.
Okay, 11B and C are the additions. B is for the fact that I can actually go on the property and remove the dog that is a continuous problem. That I would rather apprehend the owner, but bylaws don't permit me to do that. And C, I noted in our bylaw, the animal control bylaw, that there is no provision for me to actually use the tranquilizer guns that I've had in my truck for 4 years, 5 years now since I started this job. They've only ever been used once, but there are occasions where they could be used where they aren't now because of the fact that it's not in the bylaw that you can discharge the tranquilizer gun in an attempt to apprehend an animal.
Now, one of the things that's the intent of administration to do is the lengthy clause that's proposed, number 11, the intent of administration is to get legal opinion on that, to find out what, if any, concerns or issues there would be. But when I read those letters and that were in the backgrounder, I was rather very, very upset, because putting myself in the position of that, you can't let your children out on the lawns or the boulevards because of you know what, your own pets are at risk, and that's just an unacceptable situation, just an unacceptable situation. So we're looking for first reading here, and first reading will give us time, if we choose to pass first reading, will give us time to further scrutinize all aspects of this proposal on 1546A.
Also moved.
I've got Councillor Edmonds here moving first reading of proposed bylaw 1546A. Any discussion on first reading?
Just a concern that I have, and this, maybe there will be something that the administration will need to check into on section B. I don't know what our laws are on search and seizure, but to enter into a property, I think an officer has to have a warrant, in any other case, and I'm not sure that this would be legal, but that might be something you might want to check on. Maybe you have, I don't know.
One of the suggestions I made to the mayor earlier today was that perhaps administration could just run this by legal to ensure that we've put the authority in his hands properly. Because we don't want to put Lloyd at risk or the town at risk either. So I think if we get the bylaw on the books, and then perhaps if this isn't appropriate, our legal advice could give us an alternative. Yeah.
And plus, it might require a uniformed officer along with our bylaw officer if they're going to go on that property, because
Yeah.
We did have that conversation with Sergeant Beeler some time ago, I recall, and there was a bit of concern about how we would be able to manage this. So we'll pursue it a little further, and we may have to come back with some amendments.
So as I stated earlier, it is the intent of administration to have some consultation and then an opinion given on this by our legal advisors. Anything else? Any other questions, Council?
It was more a comment, and I spoke to Jeff about that. My comment was for the safety of our peace officer, because this is becoming a little bit more heavy-handed, and I wouldn't want to see our peace officer getting in trouble physically, as we heard in the news a couple of days ago. That would be disturbing to me. A human being is still more important than an animal.
But we're also facing that situation with residents in the area, so we have to have something in the bylaw
Yeah.
that will allow us to deal with the animals
I
as well.
totally agree, it's not acceptable, but I also see the safety issue.
Let me,
Lloyd?
the one comment that I got tonight, actually just before I came to this meeting, with this lady whose little dog was killed on the week, 2 or 3 nights ago. She said, then we'll just have to see what happens. And the dog that she is accusing actually belongs to a police officer. But and the last time I was at that house, he just looked at me and he said, you talk to my wife about it, I don't want anything to do with it.
Okay. All right, so this is, has the potential to be a very dicey situation. I'll call for first reading. All in favor of first reading? Carries, thank you. So, very, very sensitive situation, but there is need for moving on this appropriately and sooner rather than later. So the next item is...
Can I just ask a question? Would it be possible to set up an animal trap on the
periphery?
people's property where they're having the problem?
Yes.
Yeah, that's been discussed as well. And we do that quite often, actually, around town. People will ask for traps, yeah.
Okay, so 7B is the Cancer Society wanting to hold a relay for life, a worthwhile endeavor for sure, and they're proposing 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. Through the night. Their point being that cancer does not sleep, and so we've got a few things we need. The facility waiver. They also want to, on the soccer park, and they also sort of want some consultation and dialogue whether or not we're going to allow them to have this activity, which will go through the night. So can I have a motion, if there is a motion forthcoming on the fee waiver for the Canadian Cancer Society? Councillor Dow moves a fee waiver on the use of the soccer park. Any discussion on the motion for fee waiver? I'll call the question. All in favor? Okay, so by motion of council, fee is waived. Any thoughts or ideas on the nature of the activity being into the night? Councillor Cronin.
Okay, I totally support what I'm trying to do, but what I was trying to understand is how will the neighborhood be advised regarding this event? Because it contravenes noise bylaw or the after 11 o'clock or whatever. So I would imagine that we should direct that group to make sure that appropriate notice is given to the neighbors regarding this event in order to not have negative backlash afterwards.
So Marion, what are your thoughts on how that'll be dealt with?
We would define a radius that we definitely would notify all residents in the area with an explanation, not
Yes,
just this
exactly.
is an event,
It
but
needs
there'd
to
be an
be
explanation
explained.
attached to that, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I don't think we need any further discussion on that. Strong support from council. Yes, Marion?
Motion, can I have, could we record a motion to allow the event to be held through the, in contravention of our closure?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, Councillor Cronin so moves. Discussion on that motion. All in favor? Okay, all right. It's been discussed that town employees would possibly form a team, as reference to teams is here.
We should. Shouldn't council and mayor have a team?
And
I
council.
think we could compete against the mayor and council.
Thank you. We shall walk. You guys are runners. We walkers.
Some of them are.
I think some of them are wannabe runners, quite frankly. Okay, so we need some discussion moving forward as this event gains some momentum.
Or council could just sponsor the town event, the town team.
Council just might prefer to sponsor the town team.
No,
You mean with new team jackets and
okay, well,
nice trips, boy?
Shoes and everything.
or you can include us, walkers, into your group.
Yep.
Maybe we could
That would
just-
be the best way to do it.
Okay. We've got a little bit of time on this. I'm sure we'll start to see some posters and soliciting teams and registering and so forth, and volunteers to help, and some dates and so forth. Next item is a letter from Mr. Gary Sanderson. You have it in front of you. Is there a motion forthcoming on this issue to waive the interest penalty or anything of that nature?
Didn't he pay the interest?
He did. It's been paid. He's asking for some consideration to mitigate that interest. Marion?
I'm not sure that there was a vote on the last motion.
Oh.
Yeah, Jill missed it if there was, sorry.
To go into the night?
You moved, I made the motion, but
We didn't
did you
vote.
call for the question?
All in favor?
Thank you.
Carrie, thank you. We got some motions flying at us left and right, so I got to keep track of them a little bit better. Any discussion? I'd like a motion, first of all, if there is one. Councillor Creed.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate, and I can see how that could happen, and yeah, I think we should give him some consideration, so I'll move that we waive the interest on.
Thank you, Councillor. Any discussion on the motion to waive
How much was
the
the
penalty?
interest on it there?
Okay,
There's
About 400,
Or
a little better.
$231.63, $192.47, and $6. There's 3 separate
for anyone
properties.
else that had that issue this year, where they never paid the property
yeah, we
taxes
had,
on time and they had to pay interest on it?
yeah.
Yes, there's a number that paid interest, yes.
Councillor Cronin?
As I read the letter of Mr. Sanderson, what struck me is that the issue is not between Mr. Sanderson and the town, but rather Mr. Sanderson and a bank. The problem, as he mentioned, has to do with the bank. And therefore, I feel if there is a problem, the bank has to refund him his money for the interest for not having processed his payment on time. That is where the issue is. That is not an issue between us and Mr. Sanderson. That's the way I read it according to this letter.
Councillor Dell?
It's not our fault that he didn't pay his taxes on time. And at that point, I think the citizens of our community have to accept some responsibility for their own actions. They can't keep coming to the town and say, oh, I didn't get this, or I didn't get that, forgive me, or whatever. I think we have to be responsible for what we do in our society.
Councillor Smith?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he set the payment right to the very last day there or whatever. I mean, if something, at least give yourself a little bit of time if something happens. At least you can correct that problem or whatever. So, he's the only one that wrote a letter, and like Marion said, there's a number of people that did pay interest on it there. So, as far as I'm concerned, yeah, he needs to be accountable for.
I have a question of our administration. Over what period were these taxes not paid?
We received the
That's over the
request
weekend.
on July 24th, and so from June to July. My conversation...
This year?
Yes. My conversation with Mr. Sanderson originally, when he made the request, was, I said, if you can bring me some evidence from the bank that shows that there was a glitch in the system and that they actually should have been paid that date, then I would be prepared to waive them. But the bank couldn't provide him with that evidence. And so that's why it's come to council, because it's not my call to...
No, I really think,
I think Councillor Cronin does make a good point that it is really the bank. I mean, it is between him and the bank. That's true. Just my experience with banks is that he's going to be in trouble. But anyway.
Good luck with that, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Good luck with that. Yeah.
well, this is why we change bank when we're not satisfied with the service, isn't it?
Edmonds?
Well, I think the other problem Mr. Sanderson has is that he's a pilot and he's out of town a lot.
But it's 5 weeks notice and he's in town a fair amount.
He could be out of town 5 weeks because I know he was over in Europe.
But his wife is at home too, eh?
Yeah, but she probably doesn't handle the financial affairs, so.
Councillor Dell.
He knew when his taxes were due. And he could make arrangement, he could send a post-dated check or whatever to cover them if he'd been aware of what he had to do. And I think he knew what he had to do.
I think he thought he did.
Anyway.
Okay, any further comments?
Do we still want to have that motion?
Well, yeah, the motion's on the table, so we
Or
have
do you
to.
want to rescind it?
The chair honors the motion, and the chair will call a question. All in favor of the motion? Opposed?
Sure.
Motion fails
Fails
on a tie.
Yeah.
I think, Marion, what we need to do is have that conversation, follow-up conversation with Mr. Sanderson, and have him pursue the issue with his bank. And that's about all we can do. Okay, thank you very much. The next item is the school division parking lot. You've got your lot plan here, and I know I've been on site 3 or 4 times, and there is some significant community interest, and there is also interest on the part of Westwind School Division to put an enter-only lane into that parking lot that they've constructed. And so we need a decision right away. They won't proceed with final landscaping until there's some decision on our part. And our decision could direct a letter to the Highway Department to give us permission to construct an enter-only lane there. What else was concerned there, Marion?
Well, I'll have Jeff speak to it because him and Dave Burrows have been on site and looked at the logistics of the entrance. And so I'll have him just speak to you about that so you understand.
Okay.
Sorry, where's the entrance going, the one-way?
No, we had a computer problem, so I can't pull it up here because she's using my computer. But you all have this map. And if, Main Street is right here, along the bottom of the map. And the intention would be to put an access just to the north of the Fayray Fountain.
Where the angled sidewalk
Yeah.
is.
Good idea.
Now, there's a couple of issues that we looked at. One is the space between the parking stalls here is inferior to what it potentially should be. It's maybe 18 feet.
Oh.
And it's tough for vehicles to back out. It's straight on parking, and if 2 vehicles were right next to each other, I don't know how well you'd be able to back out. And so, but one of the issues with the traffic is the Main Street comes down, so say you're coming over the bridge from the south, and then it curves in there a little bit. The elevation from the Main Street to that sidewalk is a fairly steep drop. And there's a stormwater catch basin right in the middle of it, which is another logistical issue. So we have a stormwater catch basin sitting smack in the middle of where this access should be, and it's there rightfully so.
On the street?
It's right against the curb and gutter.
It is.
And there's a lot of elevation slope, both from the bridge from the south and Main Street's crowned heavily right there. The concern Dave has is that if you follow the contour, you're gonna have your vehicle, particularly a smaller one, drop way down and then have to come immediately way up, and you're going to start banging a lot of noses of vehicles in there, and we need to move the catch basin. Would need to happen now. He said what could happen is if this sidewalk did not curve in and came straight out, and you started the approach from basically farther out into Main Street, you would mitigate some elevation issues. But now you're starting it quite a ways out, and you need to move the catch basin, and they'd lose some parking in the front, and then curb and gutter, and that's a bit of a project now. We're getting into some
But Jeff,
change.
isn't there access to this parking lot from the west of the
Yes,
school
there is.
building and from the
And-
4th Avenue or 3rd Avenue,
Yes,
whichever it is?
it's 4th
So
Avenue.
why do we need an entrance off of
And
Main
into Lions
Street?
Park.
Well, and like I put in the backgrounder, council was presented with this drawing and approved it as it's drawn. So they went ahead with this, and yes, it can be done, I guess is the answer. Sure it can.
It's also going to be, the approach would be very close to the fountain, so there may be some,
Need to change a fountain.
So is this a project that the town, that the school division wants to work with the town to do, or they want to put it all on the town? or-
well, no, the mayor actually has brought this back to the table. The school division didn't request the access originally, it was brought back by the mayor.
Okay, so if the school division did not request the access and are pleased with their design, I can see the problem of the parking. Could it be changed by moving the position of the parking slot, putting them on an angle rather than straight, in order to facilitate coming in those stalls and going out of those stalls? Is that something that could be done? I mean, I kind of drew it on my own system there to try to follow the flows of the entrance and exit. And I thought, okay, I might lose a couple of stalls by doing that, but it would definitely improve the entrance and exit in those parking spaces.
In my discussion with the school division, they're working with their architect to make some changes there. And they feel that they could accommodate this if council wants us to move forward. But these are some things that council needs to consider before you,
I don't think it's as simple as cutting out the curb and gutter and putting in an approach.
Right.
That's one of the issues. We have a storm catch basin, we have an elevation issue. Yes, it can be done. It's concrete and money. It can be done.
Who pays for it?
Well, the town pays for it, obviously.
No, but
Councillor Creed?
Jeff, I just wondered, looking at the flow that they've drawn through their parking lot, if you and Dave looked at the entrance on the other side of the Fayray Fountain at all, or if you,
We did briefly, if I might, Mr. Mayor, we looked at the south side of the Fayray Fountain. Dave's concern was we're far too close to a bridge, and that transportation wouldn't even entertain it.
It goes right into a bottleneck.
Yeah, and keep in mind, transportation may not entertain the north side either. But his feeling was that the closer you get to a bridge, the chances of transportation cooperating become less and less. And we'd be getting pretty close by that point in time. We're really, really close.
You're really, the only option is to be north of the Fayray Fountain. I think the benefits of this enter-only lane are huge. It opens up this parking for a variety of purposes, not only for West Wind School Division, but for after-hours parking in the area, possibly for tourism parking, for southbound traffic only. The angle of it would really not begin to allow anyone northbound to do a turn in there. I would think that transportation would want to make sure that there was a solid line so that northbound traffic could not enter. It would be an angle entry, those kinds of things. But I really, really think it's worth at least having the next level of engineering to look at it and look at the feasibility of it and look at the cost of it and see if West Wind would share the cost. Councillor Smith?
Yeah, no, I agree with that fully on that. I think, if we can work with the school division on it there and do a little bit of cost sharing, and we could find a way that, access from the main road into that would just be fantastic, I think, so. The other two entrances are pretty much hidden from the view of anybody coming into town. Yeah.
Just about guarantee that at night, on weekends, during the summer, that parking lot would get virtually no use because of the obscure nature of the entry into the parking lot. Councillor Creed?
just a question, the way this is drawn, I know when we had the powwow, we were sending people were driving right past it. The way this is drawn, it looks like the lane is blocked on the south side. Is that a change, or is there another road beside that goes into the park?
And it was intended to be two-way traffic through the lane, and in further discussions, We've got one-lane traffic, and it's going out through the park now. So yes, that was a
So
change.
there's still a lane that goes
Yes.
around. and then-
Actually, as part of the school division project, they have upgraded that lane and the access into the park.
Into the park, so it still goes through there. and-
Is there access from the north side of the school building,
Yes,
Yes.
from off of Main Street?
yes.
On Main Street.
So
yeah.
this gives us two accesses to the parking lot then, one off the north side and one off the south side.
Right, but the mayor's right. The one on the north is a bit obscure to the parking area. You
Between
have
the
to loop
buildings.
around behind the building to get to the parking area, yes.
Councillor Cronin?
I mean, I understand the reason why you would prefer an entrance on Main Street. I'm not especially very keen on it. But what I'm wondering is, if the problem is a signage problem, is it not possible to put appropriate signage for public parking? I mean, that's done all over the world, proper signage, and I've found obscure parking with appropriate signage.
Access is very, very roundabout. It is extremely roundabout. And common sense dictates that when you've got a parking lot that you're going to drive right by, that you do everything reasonably possible, financially possible, to make direct access off of the southbound lane directly into the parking lot. So
I mean, at what-
that's why I'm, do we need a motion on this, Marion, to go to the next level?
Want to move forward with it for us to, I mean, we'll
One
have to
more
get
comment
costs.
there.
I'm going to call for a motion on this. Councillor Smith so moves. Yeah, discussion, Councillor Down.
If they have access from Main Street into this parking lot, they'll go out of the west side, back out on the 4th Avenue to get out of the parking lot.
Right.
And is it going to be difficult is the school division going to use this all day long during the business hours of the day? Is that the purpose of this?
10 months of the year, but quite frankly, the school division won't maybe use half of it. There could be some principals meetings, there could be some, because you see, there's not a large enough facility within the confines of West Wind Administration Building that they're going to need more than about 2/3 of that. So it's after hours, it's on weekends, it's during the summer when there is no school in session, and limited occupancy of the West Wind Administration Building. So that is really a very well-suited parking lot, quite frankly. If we can find a way with some further study and some costing as well to move forward with this, Marion.
Our preference this evening, if you want to move forward, is that you put as part of the motion maybe subject to a maximum amount, because if we have to keep coming back to council with all the different proposals, it's going to hold up the school division from finishing their projects. So if you want to move forward with it, what's the maximum amount you're prepared to pay for that? And let us as administration just move forward. So we're not holding them up.
So, but the question is, Marion, what is a reasonable amount?
Well-
I think it's going to be a fairly expensive project. I think we'd be responsible to demo what they've done. They've poured curb and everything all around the parking lot, which would now need to be cut out. And we were just talking, it's at least a $10,000 project, I think.
Well,
Only
and
10,000.
if we can do it for
I would say
15,
10 to 15.
if we can do it for 15, I honestly think it's $15,000 well spent.
I agree.
It would have to be in next year's budget though, wouldn't it?
Well, no, we can't.
But, oh, because it's gotta be
Again, we
changed.
can't hold up the school division by not
So-
moving forward with this. We either need to decide tonight. They said they would wait till tomorrow to get back to their architect, but they want a decision from
And
us.
their architect probably could give us the design we need.
Yes.
The architect could give us the design we need, with a cost as well.
So
So,
just question, what would be our source of funding then for that if we?
It would have to come from probably land reserves is what we would have, yeah.
Councillor Cronin?
I just wanted to know, what is the opinion of the school division, since that is not their decision to change that, but more a desire from all part to maybe have better usage of that parking lot?
I can answer that. I've
And I
spoken
can
with
answer it
Dennis.
too, so go ahead.
Yeah, I've spoken with Dennis Baker and Dexter both of, actually, I think, and Ken Sommerfeld, but they're willing to work with the town. They see the benefit of access off of Main Street for their use as well.
So they're willing to cost share? Do we know that?
I haven't had that conversation. They're about $100,000 into that parking lot already, so I'm not sure that they're prepared to put much more into it. It was if the town wants to do this, we're willing to work with you and make it happen, but it wasn't a matter of offering additional money for the project.
Is this for our convenience or the school division's convenience?
It's our convenience.
Well,
School
I
doesn't
think-
need the access.
Yeah, I think it would be both. Obviously, for them, it would be a different type of access, but the parking lot itself has a huge benefit for the town. For both when the pool is probably redesigned to go more south for extra parking and events in Lions Park. There's a benefit to that parking lot
Well,
being
then
there, so.
I'll put motion forward.
Okay, so I'll call a question, all in favor?
Just a sec.
Maximum.
Oh, we need
Before-
a
What would
cost
the fee-
ceiling.
Yeah, what would be the maximum, 15,000?
15,000.
I mean, yeah, I'd like to know.
We're just taking a stab at it, because once you start moving catch basins and stuff, it can get quite expensive, but,
And if we have to change the elevation coming back from the bridge,
right.
you know, there's
There's more
potentially a lot of work
cement.
here.
Well, let's say 15,000 and then bid.
And try to get 50/50 cost share with West Wind.
Let's say the
15 won't cover it.
15 from the towns, and then see if they'll match if it goes
See if they'll
over.
cost share with it.
First of all, I mean, it's just, we're not spending the money. I mean, it's just
It's an
for
investment.
administration to, it's just a.
To move forward
Oh.
with it.
Exactly.
Move
But we
forward to
would
that
be
amount.
spending the money, Counselor. I need you to understand that, because if you've agreed to this, we will spend up to $15,000. If it's 10,000, that's what we'll spend, but we need to move forward with it so that we don't hold up them. So if the motion passes.
Okay, I just thought that we were gonna discuss maybe putting that in and taking a look at engineering drawings or whatever, or things like
Yeah,
that. but-
no, because that will hold their project
Okay, well,
up too
I'm
long.
good with spending
That-
$15,000
yeah.
to.
And we also need to have on there the source of that funding would be from land
Land
reserves.
reserves.
Okay.
Okay, so the motion is then, Councillor Cronin?
To,
Smith made.
Sorry, Councillor Smith made the initial motion, that's correct, thank you.
That we, let's see, motion would be that we work with Westwind School Division and cost sharing project of installing an entrance into from Main Street into the east parking lot there.
South.
Sorry, south
But it's-
south parking lot there.
it is conditional to the approval of Ministry of Highway.
Yes, Alberta Transportation, that's
With a
part of it.
maximum of
Maximum of 15,000.
$15,000. Okay, I'll call a question.
Land readers.
From land reserves. I'll call a question, all in favor?
Okay.
Carries, thank you.
Whereabouts is the fountain fed from? Will it affect the water supply to that?
Right now, the water supply to the fountain is through the school division's irrigation system.
In work also.
So that would all have to be taken into account, yes.
Okay, two items then to deal with the meeting schedule. 7E, we are on our way to Edmonton for AUMA convention on Tuesday, the 25th. Does council choose to cancel the meeting, or does council choose to reschedule the meeting?
I would suggest we cancel a meeting. We can get by with one meeting in July and August. Surely we can get by with one meeting in September.
Well,
Two
and
meetings,
and we've
actually.
got two meetings in September because we got committee of the whole on the 4th, and then we've got council on the
I
11th.
would suggest we cancel the 25th meeting.
Move to council, discussion on the motion.
That is a question for administration. Do you foresee a lot of business?
No, oh, yay.
We're having it again. No, one more round of it.
Gust of wind.
Oh, okay.
Stuff hitting up there.
There's some white stuff floating
I'm gonna go
around.
drive my car home and get the heck out of here. Holy crap.
Okay, any discussion on that motion?
Things fixed yet.
Got our cars undercover, guys.
Mine haven't been
Mine's
fixed
still
yet, so.
I'm not joking though, will you go drive
Oh,
my
yeah,
car
sure,
home?
yeah.
Because, sorry, my husband
okay,
won't
we'll
excuse me.
just check.
What's it doing out there?
Well, just a terrific gust of wind right now.
Yeah, there's nothing coming down, but windy.
Too late now.
I think someone left something on the roof up there.
Safe, you know.
Well, our wireless stuff that he's got up on the top was just redone with the hailstorm, but that's,
Jill, did you want to go up and take a look up there?
You see daylight.
Just joking, Justin.
You see
Yeah, mine too.
25th meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all in favor of that?
All in favor of canceling
Yeah.
the 24th? Okay.
I think we're all.
I move we adjourn.
Yeah, please, let's go.
Then you talk to your families and that is under the prison. Okay, we'll clean stuff up tomorrow.